In this interesting video, I want to share with you the significance of a spiritual balance. I think it's something we don't discuss much in our everyday life experience. The individuals are more related to religion or going to church or belonging to a group, which is okay, not a problem. It's it's helpful. It's good. So religion does more good than bad. But when it comes to individuals who don't go to church, don't feel they belong to a certain religion or church, something very significant they should consider for themselves is a spiritual balance. A spiritual balance, I want to say, has to do with reconnecting with who you are within your heart, within your mind, within your spirit, if you will. So, a spiritual balance has to do with reconnecting with something that one may consider reconnecting with something that is significantly, let's say, powerful or enormous. Some people call it the higher power. Some people call it God. Some people call it Jesus, which is okay. Those are just names. In my observation. But the most important thing here is that a spiritual balance has to do with reconnecting with who you are within your heart, within your mind. Sometimes um, people feel lonely. People feel lonely. They feel empty. And, sometimes they pray to God, they pray to Jesus, they read the Bible, but they still feel empty. They still feel abandoned. They still feel like if there isn't much they can do about the issue they are going through, which is normal. It's part of an existential life experience, right? Life is not easy. Life is difficult. Life is a struggle. But on the other hand, life is beautiful. And it all depends how each individual goes through the process of allowing himself or herself to experience life. From an existential psychological view, has to do with making choices. Making choices. And sometimes people don't allow themselves to choose because it may be confusing, it may be uh, scary experience. It could be difficult to go to the next level. So therefore they choose not to choose. They decide not to choose because they feel too comfortable or they are not certain or confident they will make it happen. So because some people do not choose to move on to the next level, guess what? According to this existential psychological view, they are still responsible for not choosing. Let me give you an example. Sooner or later, that person in the future, I don't know, 5, 7, 10 years later, may regret for not allowing himself or herself to have chosen something he or she was supposed to decide. So, because he or she didn't decide back then, didn't make that choice, now, let's say these individuals are going through life struggling. And also, existential philosophy, existential psychology to some degree has to do with making choices and and facing life experience. But something that he or she needs to be aware of is that life is difficult. Even, some philosophers back then in this area of existential philosophy would say life is miserable. Life is miserable. We live and then we die. They may even say, it's hard to live, knowing that we will not exist once the end comes. Well, that's just a philosophy. It doesn't mean that's the way it is supposed to be. But this philosophical approach helps us to reflect on being present. This philosophical approach helps us to reflect on being present. Like right now, I'm doing this video. I may be tempted to start thinking something that I will be doing after this video. Or I may become concerned about something that is in the back of my mind. Then I start worrying. Then I start feeling some kind of anxiety. So, because of that, I am not present and I'm not dedicating 100% of, let's say, doing this video. So, from a philosophical existential approach, would be just be present. Be present, stay in the moment. There isn't much you can do in the future or what happened in the past right at this moment. So, right at this moment, the most important thing, let's say, is doing the video for me. As Don Juan says, I'm just giving an example, okay, about the video. Is that the video is, the most important thing. But Don Juan says, um, every single effort counts toward doing our part, toward looking forward to do much better. But our enemy number one, he says, is fear. And fear is going to manipulate us not to choose and not to continue forward. Then we are going to feel too comfortable and then we don't do much to continue doing much better. I mean, it's a choice. People choose not to move on, not to continue doing way much better. It's a choice. It doesn't mean it's wrong. I mean, no one is say, "Oh, you are making a serious mistake because you are not choosing to move on." No, no, it's the unique and very personal experience of that person. That person himself or herself is going to see later on in the future, let's say, of the negative consequence of not um, not have chosen the determination to decide. And the only one responsible for that lack of determination is each one of us, period. And then we move on, we live, we go through life experience, then we see life kind of being difficult, being a struggle, and it becomes more difficult when we don't focus, when we don't become present in the here and now. Is the present moment that is supposed to help us to deal with the situation that is, let's say, affecting us. We are to be present. We are to face it in a good way, in a courageous way. Now, going back to the spiritual balance aspect, let's say to continue moving on with an existential view and approach, we are to allow ourselves to be present. We are to allow ourselves to be by ourselves in loneliness, sadness, emptiness, to reconnect with our most powerful inner strength, to reconnect with our most powerful inner strength. And that powerful inner strength, it's all about yourself. It's all about your way to go through life experience. And that internal powerful strength or experience is going to lead you to continue having the courage to face difficulties in life. And that's what I call a spiritual balance. We breathe in and we breathe out. We experience the pain, the difficulty, the struggle. We breathe in. I need to be present. I need to be realistic. And I need to have the courage to face it in a good way. Doing meditation and reflection, going to the mountains, being around the trees, being with Mother Nature, looking at the stars, learning from Mother Nature that has been for millions of years present. What is the average of living? 75, 80, 90, and that's it. Gone. Physically gone. But spiritually speaking, let's say, there is something within ourselves that is way more powerful than, let's say, the struggles we may face. And having the strength to continue doing well, right? So once again, a spiritual balance has to do with reconnecting with who we are within our hearts, within our mind, within our spirit, and reconnecting with that inner strength to face it in a good way and to continue making choices in a good way. Mhm. Okay, that's all what I wanted to share. I hope this makes sense.